Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Reviewing Comics with me, your host, Alexander Turbin. Today we're going to be going over which is a funny little comic because it's written by Peter Bagge, which is one of my favorite cartoonists. He did Hate and Neat Stuff, and he's just really significantly amazing. Probably one of the greatest indie comics creators ever. And it's drawn by Gilbert Hernandez from the Hernandez brothers, who did Love and Rockets. And he, too, is an icon in the indie space. And putting both of these guys together, I thought it was going to be like an explosion of some of the greatest stuff that I had ever seen. And, well, I'll give you my thoughts in a minute. But before we get into that, I'd like to show you my own stuff. This is Random Access. It's a full-size, soon-to-be full-color again. I'm going back to that. Comic book that this is the newest one, issue number 24, and it's a reprint of the comic strip People of Andor that I did on Instagram of last year, a few years or so. I'm reprinting this because there's characters that are very specific to the next Random Access issues. You can get these at patreon.com/Alexander Turbin or Alex Turbin, I can't remember which one. Or you can go to my website, alexanderturbin.com. Or you can just message me at alexturbin0441 at Yahoo, which is my email, or alexturbin0441 at Instagram. And here's the newest Mutandis number 6. And like I said, you can get that at alexanderturbin.com. And this is the newest one. So I have all of the Mutandises 1 through 6. This one is Mutandis for Generatus number 1, but I'm turning that into issue number 5 actually. So that's number 5, and you can check all those out, like I said, on alexanderturbin.com. So oh, scary! This is the last review of the scary October month, the Halloween month. The Halloween issue this is stumbling. It's not really super Halloween-y issue. I kind of thought there was going to be more. I hadn't read this since 1999 when it first came out. I just read this a little while ago, and so I thought it would be a nice little fun thing to have instead of having like a scary thing like I've done previously with The Conjuring, boo, and some of the other stuff that I've reviewed, which were a little bit better. But so I thought this would be fun, and I love Peter Bagge. I love Gilbert Hernandez. I wanted to familiarize myself with their work. And it's, and this is number 3. So from what I'm getting from the other, because I hadn't read the first 2 in a while, I can't remember if I still have number 1. I tried to get all of them. I think there's 9 or 10 in the whole series. But they were really hard to get when I first was trying to get them. They're cheaper. They're only like $5 on eBay, so anybody can grab them. I think one might be a little bit more, like $7 or $8, but even then, that's like $5 or $6. So it's not a big deal to just pick one up from eBay or whatever. So yeah, let's get into this. Let's get into and see what's going on. So like I do with the professional stuff, which is very odd to call Peter Bagge and Gilbert Hernandez professional, because I don't know if they've worked for Marvel or DC in any other capacity, but really kind of that's the benchmark for professionalism for comic book writers and artists, as far as I'm concerned. Sure, if you work for Image or Dark Horse or something like that, you're professional too. But really hitting the pinnacle of the comic book world for me is Marvel and DC. So we're going to talk about the story, and then we'll maybe talk about the art and writing as we're talking about the story and stuff like that, and we'll see how it goes. I'll probably zip back at the end and talk about some of the things I like and some of the things I don't. So right off the bat, this is a Peter Bagge comic book. I think it's Gilbert trying to draw a little bit more like Peter Bagge and less like a Hernandez, which is kind of a little bit off-putting for me. I'm not really I'm not really digging it too much. The whole vibe of the comic is like Love and Rockets is like a punk Archie comic, and so it's kind of innocent. It's well, Love and Rockets isn't so innocent, but Archie's innocent, and I think that they got together and they were like, hey, let's do this fun, quirky, arty, cartoony style comic book, because this really reminds me of the Josie and the Pussycats, which I think originated in the Archie comics. If I'm wrong, let me know. So right off the bat, it's not like the other comics that they've done, because one of the great things of Hate and all of the other stuff that they've done is that it's takes a topic or whatever, a story, and then kind of twists it and turns it into this like kind of grotesque, modernized, weird punk or like distorted version of itself. And really, this is not that. This is basically just turning an Archie book or an Archie thing into whatever they've created here. So right off the bat, I'm not loving what I'm seeing. The art, obviously, to me, is very simple and plain. I think, like I said, I think Gilbert is trying to draw like Peter. I don't know that for a fact. I don't know that for anything really, except that it kind of looks like that's what he's trying to do. Maybe he's trying to imitate him or show him some kind of homage or something like that. But it really doesn't work for me. There are a lot of aspects of Gilbert in here, like this face right here, that is in a lot of different Love and Rocket stuff, and it's just really kind of, it's great to see, and I love it, but also he's got more of a simplistic thing going on here, and I'm not really into it. So you've got your one of your main characters. Her name is Crazy, and she's in her apartment, I guess, or whatever. She's walking into her apartment. She has her hand muffled over her mouth, and she bites the hand. And apparently, I've gathered through reading the issue, that's one of the great things about this issue. There are a lot of positives, is that they don't go back and tell you who something is or who somebody is or what happens. They just kind of integrate it into the conversation, which is one of the greatest ways of kind of telling you what's happening and what characters are, instead of the Marvel method where the first 2 pages are introduce all the characters, tell everybody what happened last issue or the last few issues, get everybody caught up with who these characters are. And so that's like the first two pages. In this, it takes kind of the whole story to unfold the characters and storylines and plot lines and stuff like that. So right off the bat, though, she bites his hand and turns around and she's like, "Hey, you're Krusty." Krusty is their manager, because the Yaz are a intergalactic, because they've been to other planets and other galaxies and stuff, playing their music, even though apparently they suck and nobody on Earth likes them. But they are notorious in other planets because other people like them, which doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. Or maybe it does make a lot of sense, because if people from another planet had different tastes, then people from Earth might not enjoy it. So whatever, they're downtrodden. It's also a story vehicle. It's just like The Office, where they had their ups and downs, and they begin as really doing really great when all of the other paper companies are kind of struggling, and then as the seasons progress, they kind of start to not do so well, and it's having a hard time. And so it's a story vehicle of them not being very good musicians, and then they can become better musicians and well known, and there's also other plot lines that could develop out of that. So that's really kind of an interesting way to do it. So she's bit Krusty. He's the manager, and they just kind of talk about what's going on. She has a stalker somebody has destroyed her apartment. And one of the things is like being so cartoony of a style that Gilbert is doing, like you don't really have to pay as much attention to perspective and all of that kind of stuff. Like this chair is supposed to be teetering on its side or whatever, and it's totally doesn't look like it is. All of the other things look very in perspective and everything, all the lines are parallel and everything like that, but that one kind of thing doesn't really look like it, and the perspective in this room is kind of off as well. But Krusty has this ESP detector or whatever. He's trying to find who this person is that has been giving Crazy, because that's the main the name of the, I think she's the lead singer of the band Yas. And so she's trying to figure out who's after Crazy and who did this to her apartment. And she's like, she doesn't care. She's like she's almost like Phoebe from Friends. She's just like this kind of wonky weird girl, and she's like, oh, that's nothing, it's no big deal, it's probably just some fan or something. Here's that face again, and here's that face. It's a typical Gilbert Hernandez face, which is, you know, great to see. But part of the things that he's trying to imitate Peter Bagge is Peter Bagge would do these eyes and then these funny things on the side, only Baggy's would be like, the eyes would be huge and they'd be so expressive, whereas she kind of looks more like a zombie. So he's trying to do different things, a little bit more like Peter Bagge, but it's failing a little bit. And, you know, I understand his ambition and what he's trying to do and how he's trying to do it, and I appreciate it. I just think it maybe fell off a little bit. Yeah, so Krusty's like nothing to be afraid of, and she's not scared. He doesn't think it's a big thing. And they're talking about ESP and how she has some low-level ESP as well. And he's like, okay, well, if you're not going to stay with me, because he wants her to go stay with him for her protection because he's scared for her. And so he just kind of takes off down the stairs, and then he's whacked by a club, and his ESP helmet is smashed, and he's all upset about it. So the storyline throughout most of the comic is very loose, and it's very it's kind of meanders and winds around a lot like Hate and a lot like Love and Rockets and all of Jamie and Gilbert Hernandez's work. It just kind of meanders around. It's very much like an Archie, if you cross an Archie and a Coen Brothers movie and they kind of connected, that's kind of how it is, because the Coens kind of meander around and not a lot of stuff will happen at one juncture, and then all of a sudden something big will happen. That's kind of how these storylines are, and that's kind of how Peter Bagge and Hernandez is right. It is interesting to see Peter Bagge writing and not illustrating, because whenever you take the illustration part out of somebody writing, it kind of can blow their way of doing things. Frank Miller is like that. If he goes in sync with an artist, it can be pure gold. Like Dave Mazzucchelli in Daredevil, it's pure gold. But then for me, RoboCop, two of my favorite artists of all time, my favorite artist actually in Walt Simonson, I thought it was just, did not like it at all, did not appreciate it. But I mean, I appreciated what they were trying to do, but I just did not like it, didn't enjoy it. I'll be going through that at some point, some of the RoboCop's issues, because it's Frank Miller and Walt Simonson. And I just, maybe if I reread it, I'll think of it differently. Anyway, they go to the newest gig that they have, which is a bar nearby. It's a dive. It's a hole in the wall, and they're not happy. None of the patrons like them, even though, I mean, they're hot girls. So why wouldn't these drunken people like them? But they're making a ruckus, and the Yaz are kind of pissed off that they're even working this gig, and they're mad at Krusty, and so they confront Krusty when he comes in. He has a hat on. They take his hat off. He's got a big hole in his head. a big bump on his head, and then they go from being mad to being curious and also scared for him and concerned and all of this stuff. And then he is talking about Crazy, and he thinks that the stalker that is stalking her is actually the one that did it. And so she's like, that's having a stalker is a crazy idea. And they just kind of go through this whole dialogue of some of the concerts that they've done on other planets and stuff like that, and how they don't have any fans, let alone stalkers. So then Krusty tells them about the newest gig that he's got. Some rich bigwig in the hills is having a Halloween party, so hence the Halloween issues, even though it hasn't had any kind of Halloween motif so far. But then he tells them all of the caveats of the party. A, they're not getting paid for the gig. B, they have to, actually, I don't know if he tells them until later. Yeah, he does. He tells them that they're actually opening up for Miss Hellraiser, who is like their arch nemesis, their bad guy to their good guys and stuff. And so he just tells them all of these things, and they're just not impressed. But it's like a big deal to him, or he thinks it's a big deal, good exposure or whatever. So they are going to go along with it because they always do what Krusty says. Here is a thing that Peter Bagge often does, where it's a silhouette, where it's just white in the background. Again, it's not in. The arms are very Peter Bagge-ish, and it's just doesn't have the same energy as when Peter does it himself. Gilbert, great illustrator, one of my favorite artists, one of my favorite illustrators. He has a style of his own, and he's trying to mimic Peter's, and it just falls flat because Peter Bagge he's got this, like his arms would be way out there, and she would be, legs down by her whatever, and she just, like, it's just so expressive. I might have to bring in some other hate issues when I actually review some Hate. I'm going to, because Hate is one of my favorite comic book series of all time. So Krusty's telling them that they can show up Mrs. Hellraiser because they hate her and she hates them and all that stuff. So they're like, okay. But they also want to dress up as in their Halloween costumes because, they're girls, and they want to go to a party in a Halloween costumes and stuff like that. So it says later on in Crazy's rundown area of the city where she lives, there's kind of some weird stuff going on where it's setting up the big reveal of who is stalking Crazy, and there's like a smash and a stuff like that, and then there's trudge. So somebody is going to see her, and he's got a funky hand, so you think it might be something different, and he's got these weird things on his arm, so you think he might be like some kind of monster or something that's after Crazy. And then he gives her chocolates and flowers, and she's all happy, and here's more eyes where Gilbert is trying to be like Peter Bagge, and it just falls flat, in my opinion. Let me know if you guys think that Gilbert is doing a good job trying to mimic Peter Bagge's style and stuff like that, which I'm not a great proponent of doing. He's doing it because they're friends, obviously, and he has a lot of respect for him. Like, I could totally do a Walter Simonson thing just because I love his art so much, and it would just be so much fun for me to do. So I'm sure Gilbert is having a blast doing whatever he's doing, even though I'm not really into it. So again, here's another scene that comes straight out of a Hate comic. So they go to Krusty's. They can't find Crazy. I guess they went to her apartment. She's not there. So they're all worried. One of them talks about going to the police, and the other one's like, we're not going to go to the police. We're going to go find her herself, and we're going to use this AK-47. And so it goes like that. They take their van, and they're looking around the streets and stuff, and they finally find her. And so from this point on, the story, which has moved a little bit slowly for me, kind of picks up the pace, and it's coming closer and closer to its resolution. They find Crazy. She's like, "Oh, it's no big deal. I just went out for some sweets and stuff. I've got some candy." And because I guess that's what Crazy eats, is just candy and junk food and stuff like that. Kind of like I did, and now I've got diabetes. Okay, great. Thanks. There you go, Crazy. Get some diabetes. So Crazy takes off. She's like, "You guys leave me alone. I'll see you at the gig," or whatever. So then later it's at the gig. It's a costume party. Everybody's dressed up in their sexy costumes or their king costumes or whatever. And it's kind of interesting. The group is talking about talking to Miss Hellraiser, and she apparently is engaged to the big wig. So she's like all talking about how awesome she's going to be and everything like that. And they're just kind of having their usual banter between Miss Hellraiser and Woo Woo, I guess that's her name, and not Crazy, what's his name, Cranky or Krusty. Krusty's trying to get them to be friends so they can start the gig, and everybody will be happy and everything. And then more characters are introduced, and like I think these may be background characters that are in some of the issues where they show up at the gigs. Maybe not, I don't know. They're just talking about the music and stuff like that, and Krusty kind of goes a little crazy. And so the bigwig shows up. He's wearing the same king costume that Krusty is. They start to have this dueling sword fight with cardboard swords, and he's got a chicken leg or turkey leg or whatever. So it's kind of supposed to be like funny. I never did laugh at any of this comic book. Maybe my humor is a little bit more weird or a little bit more slapstickish or darker or whatever, but this is just so much pure humor, so much pure fun and innocent that it's really hard for me to catch on as far as humor goes. I really didn't think it was funny at all. And I'm pretty sure I just stopped getting it. And like the first couple issues were exactly the same way. I'm like, I did not laugh at all. Whereas in Hate, I would laugh my ass off at just some of the crazy stuff, especially that Stinky would do or whatever. It was just like a humorous, funny thing. And even if I wasn't, actually laughing my ass off, I would think it was humorous and cute and funny in a way that made me enjoy it. Whereas this, I'm just like, it's cute. It's supposed to be humorous, but I'm not really getting into it. And so Woo Woo and Honey, I guess that's her name. Honey, Woo Woo, and Crazy are the three of the Yaz. She's like, Crazy's outside and you need to help her or whatever. We need to go outside and talk to her right now. So they go outside and they find out that the stalker is actually an alien that was at one of their concerts on another planet. And he came to this planet and he stalked her, and he's sick now because he's been eating Earth food, and they're thinking that it's because Crazy just gave him junk food like candy and stuff, so now he's sick. And so they go into the house, into the party, and he won't be recognized because it's a Halloween party, and he's an alien. And so he's looking at the hors d'oeuvres and stuff, and he's eating some of it stuff, but he's not really liking any of it. So Crazy's all upset about her new boyfriend getting sick, and they introduce Krusty to the new boyfriend. They call him Stalky. I think that's what they call him, short for stalker. So that's her new boyfriend, is their stalker. And then they're talking about him being sick, and they're trying to get some kind of figure out how to make him not sick. And they have a poster for whoever this is. I think they're saying, I think the poster, I'm not entirely sure they get it. It was a benefit poster for this person who was, I don't know, sick or whatever. But I mean, it was a benefit concert for him, so he must be a cancer survivor or something like that. But I can't remember what her name, Honey. Honey is talking to their roadie, and they're saying that, he's a vegetarian. He said that early on. He had brought his own food because he's a vegetarian and he didn't want to eat any meat or whatever. So she says, didn't you bring some of that food from that other planet? And he says, yeah, I did. They give it to the alien. He's all bow, wow, wow, up and at him and energetic and everything and happy again. And so they're going to finish off the concert, or actually start the concert. More of this black silhouette that Peter Bagge does so well. This is a little bit better than the other one, the last one that they did. So they start playing together. The Yaz and Miss Hellraiser play together, and they're kind of enjoying each other, but not really, because they hate Miss Hellraiser and she hates them. The alien takes over. The Stocky takes over the microphone, and he starts singing in his alien language, and all of the people in the crowd love it. The king loves it. The kids love it. And Krusty says he's actually the manager, but through this whole thing, I guess he has to leave because his parents are very worried about him. It's very cartoony at this point, because it's almost breaking the third wall, where it has to have like a really quick resolution, because it has to end at the end of the comic. So they're getting ready to say goodbye, and Crazy and the alien stalker are they're just saying goodbye to each other, and they're very sad and everything. So here's even the breaking of the fourth wall, where Crazy and the Stocky kiss each other for a long time, and then it says, hey, he's like Peter Bagge's just saying, hey, it's really sad, let's move on to the next scene. So they do. Stocky takes off, and Crazy says, he did weird stuff to my skin anyway. And they talk about the weird stuff that Krusty had a contract with Stocky, and he gave it to, or he didn't have a contract with Stocky, but he gave some kind of contract to the other bigwig. And so it ends, and they're like, you'll have to see next issue what happens. So it's a very cartoony ending to the issue, and I'm not really loving that. It feels kind of like the end of Holy Grail, Monty Python's The Holy Grail, where it's just kind of thrown together. You kind of feel like they had a shoestring budget, and they were running over, so they had to do something really quick to end it. Again, like I've said, Gilbert tries to do all of these things that Peter does in his comics, and the writing is pretty good. It's very Peter Bagge-ish without the punk / grotesque / sexual, pseudo-sexual, pseudo-drug kind of stuff going on, which makes it a lot less interesting for me. He leaves his what he's comfortable with, and he tries to do this purely good thing, purely fun thing, and it just kind of falls flat for me. I'm going to review it because it's two of my favorite creators, and they left me wanting. So I'm going to review this I'm going to give it a 6, because if there are more Yaz out there, I'm not going to buy them. I thought that Gilbert's art was, even though he was trying really hard, and there's never any bad art that I think he's done, and it's okay, but he's trying to be more like Peter Bagge. I would have enjoyed this a little bit more if he had just gone with his own style, and I would have been able to really enjoy the combination of Bagge and Hernandez coming up with this brand new thing, and not just trying to siphon off onto each other whatever it is that they were trying to do. So yeah, I'm going to give this a 6. I could probably go lower, just because it really wasn't a fun read. The first half of the comic is really kind of boring, and the second half, the resolution happened, but it really didn't make a whole lot of sense. So they had to add that cartooniness to it. It's kind of like a dream where you just add something to a cartoon, and because it's a cartoony, then it's okay. You don't have to ask what's happening or where that came from, or you have any kind of resolution or anything like that. You're just like, bam, it's there. It's cartoony. So there you go. It's also part of the comics books code, and it's a homage and a DC. It came out in 1999. So gave it a 6. Not loving it. Not going to buy more. You can get more for $4 or $5. It's not a big deal. So if you like this comic, if you had more Yaz, if you think it's awesome, let me know. If you think it sucks, let me know. Let me know what you think of Peter Bagge and Gilbert Hernandez, because I love to talk about these artists and stuff. So let me know exactly what you think. And so if you're new to the channel, I usually review older black and white indie stuff, and that's one of the reasons why I did this one, is because they are a couple of the kings of the black and white indie boom in the 80s and 90s. So yeah, that's why I did it. A little disappointed. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing, hitting the notification bell, and leaving a thumbs up if you like this kind of content. And also, more than that, more than any of those things, is I like comments. I like comments from everybody, and if I don't see it, then I'll just try. I'm gonna try to scour all of the comments, because I really don't want to leave anybody hanging. If somebody leaves a comment, I'm gonna leave a reply if I see it. If I don't, it means I haven't seen it, and eventually I will see it. So maybe months down the road, I'll reply to you. But anyway, didn't love it. It's the Yaz, it's not even Yaz, it's the yeah. So didn't love it. Love Peter Bagge still. Love Gilbert Hernandez. Gonna be going through some of their stuff later on, and we'll really go into the nuts and bolts of their art and why I like their art and their writing and stuff like that. But the writing's good, not great. The art is good, not great. Left me wanting. So anyway, thanks for watching, and I will see you guys next time, and keep on creating.